needing a maximum 16. Is it all over?
Yeah.
Really answered the question a couple of weeks ago when they were still in a closer of a shout.
Yeah, I mean, they're fifth in the league are nearer to Arsenal than what Arsenal are to first. I mean, in my opinion, I'd be saying now we've got to concentrate and make sure we get in the top four. I mean, they're too far away. Liverpool got to lose virtually half of their football matches. They've lost one all season. It's not going to happen. The league's over. It's finished.
When the players speak after the games, he's on about we just didn't have any cutting edge. You've got to have cutting edge. Cutting edge is very, very important. It's like as if to say, well, once we get that back, but if you've lost that cutting edge and you're not scoring goals, or you don't look like you're going to score goals, then forget about closing any gap on Liverpool. I agree. I think you should be more worried about the teams coming up behind you. Because cutting edge at this level, we've seen it, the amount of times they had possession in United's final third, but we never thought they were certainly going to score 2 or 3 goals. And that's a big part of football.
Why does it go from having cutting edge one game, which they did midweek?
Well, to
Declan's point, they haven't lost at home for 2.5 years.
Yeah,
they've beaten Liverpool, all right, a weakened Liverpool, but Juventus as well.
But that just shows you, I think, the level of this league is really relentless. And don't get me wrong, I think what Manchester United did, they sat deep, made it really difficult for them. But when I think about Arsenal at their best, I think about real pace on the counter-attack. And any time there's any space, when you've got Bukayo Saka, when you play with Trossard and Pedro Marino, you haven't got that pace that's really going to. You're not really going to worry about it. One area on the right gives you something, but in that respect, that means you can always go out and double up against him. And they haven't. He summed it up perfectly. It's a perfect analysis. We haven't got that cutting edge with the players they've got right now. And they're not playing at that level, and they're not threatening teams. They're playing lovely football, intricate passes, but unless they're going to score from something from outside the box, the set pieces have dried up. So nothing really is going in Arsenal's way. And I agree, they've got to be careful what's going behind them.
You're saying they scored 7 during the week, but they didn't have any swagger about them today. They did like nice bits of possession. But if anything, at the end, you're thinking United are probably going to win it. And United have been dreadful all season. They've produced in 3 or 4 games, United, but you felt sitting there. So I'd be looking at Arsenal's mentality and their swagger going, where was it? You're coming to United. You must smell that United here for the taking. United were sitting in and hoped, obviously, on the counter-attack. But Arsenal didn't show that. They weren't streetwise. And at the end, they were really open. And United probably should have won the game.
But how do you explain that? That sounds like it's a mentality issue.
Well, it might be. It might be. So we're praising Arsenal the last few years, saying they've done well and they've made progress. But the next step is always the hardest one. So this idea of the last few years going, they made real progress, they finished second, blah. Oh, if you're playing for Arsenal, remember, what could a second to you? If you're talking about winning league titles, don't compare it to United, but where they are. But the next step, getting over the line, is the hardest one. But I'm not seeing an Arsenal team here where they turned up today and you went, I tell you what, they were machine-like, they put United, they knew United were there for the taking, and they weren't even ready to take that step. So forget Liverpool. Be more worried about the teams coming up behind you. I wasn't happy with their mindset. And even Declan Duran was going, well, yeah, we got a bit stretched. We were playing patterns of play, and United probably should have won it at the end against that really poor United team.
A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Arsenal, I suppose, with some positivity in terms of the title race, and Liverpool potentially might have come unstuck with a difficult run of fixtures, certainly through February. But when it came to the crunch, Paul, this is when Arsenal, having beaten Manchester City so impressively, have dropped off, losing at home to West Ham United, failing to get through Nottingham Forest, and then dropping more points here today. As we said, they've dropped 7 points in the last 3 games. How do you explain that?
What Declan Rice there got no cutting edge. Marino had to come on in the last 10 minutes against Leicester and score 2 goals, and they were 2 good goals. Don't get me wrong. Never really looked like winning the game before that. It's so hard. It's such an art playing up front. Everybody wants a centre forward. I get that, but to go and say to a midfield player, "You're going to go and play up front," is.
So ultimately injuries, you're saying?
Oh, injuries, yeah. Injuries hasn't helped. It hasn't helped. Yeah, it hasn't helped. You don't think Liverpool would have only lost 1 game this season if Van Dijk was out for 3 months? No, they wouldn't have. They'd have lost more games.
Is that the part of a challenge for any big club? You have to deal with setbacks.
You have to deal with
everybody knew that they needed a striker.
We had this with Arsene Wenger. Everybody knew that Arsene Wenger needed a centre half, but he'd never ever go out and get a centre half. And it's the same now. He put in a £60 million bid for Watkins, or meant to have, in January. We'll go 65. It's 5 million. It's a cup of tea for Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? Go 65, and if it takes 70, do 70. But it's like, we'll get by. And I know Arteta's a midfield player and was a very good midfield player. I played up front my career. It's a hard position to play. It's a hard position. And when you're playing in a game like this where I don't like saying a low block, when they play 10 behind the ball, that's when you need that guy or a centre forward who's going to just pull off a centre half and then might get in the box at a near post, like Højlund did at the end there. He was unlucky. It was a great block. But that little bit of goal, they never had that. Mourinho, I can't really remember him touching the ball in the game. I'm sitting here now thinking, what did he do? And it's not his fault, don't get me wrong. And then you've got Wanyeri out on the right. He's 17. He's a kid. So he's going to be up and down. He's just played in Europe, in a European game. You know, the last 16 of the Champions League game. Then he's here. You know, Trossard was bought really, to be honest, to be an understudy to Saka and Trossard, to Saka and Martinelli. He's playing every week. So you think of that front three. Does that front three get in Fulham's team? No. And where are Fulham?
If you're Liverpool,
does that front three get in front of Man United front three when Højlund's playing and people like that? So
you look where Liverpool are. Liverpool will be looking at that today, and they won't be thinking, "Oh, this team are going to hunt. They're going to try. They're going to put us under pressure." Liverpool will be looking at it going, "I think Arsenal almost given up the title chase." The way that mentality ended, I was going,
Did it feel like that to you?
I felt like that. Watching, I'm thinking, "Come on, Arsenal, where's this?" And yeah, all that issue with striker, of course, and listen, everyone's looking for that striker and get you 20 or 30 goals. But I still thought there'd be that mentality going, well, we still get the job done. We still find a way to win. And if anything, it was the opposite. You had a Man United team here who must be low on confidence, struggling. We talked about protests before the game, strikers not in form, but they found a way. And if anything, at the end, you're sitting there going, I think United are probably going to win this. And they probably should have won it at the end.
And I think that is a difference when you think about what Liverpool have got when they've got Salah, Diaz, Nunez, Jota, players that are going to come off the bench, or if they're starting, they're going to affect the game. Szoboszlai adds goals. And if you haven't got that, Gakpo's been fantastic this season. They've got so many different players that can give you that goal threat. And I look at Arsenal and I think right now, who's going to get that goal? And it ends up coming from he was playing defensive midfield at the time when he scored his goal. So that's what they're lacking. They're really, and it's been apparent, and every single Arsenal fan knows it. So if you're going to make that kind of mistake,
Reds, let's talk about that 1-1 draw at Old Trafford. And more importantly, the reactions from the pundits after the game. Roy Keane, Paul Merson, and Jamie Redknapp didn't hold back, and there's plenty for us to chew over from a United perspective. Now, let's be honest, Arsenal came into this game needing a win. Their title hopes pretty much hanging by a thread, but they couldn't get past a United side that's been anything but consistent this season. And Keane was having none of the usual excuses. He slammed Arsenal's lack of a cutting edge, pointing out how they passed it around nicely, had possession in good areas, but never really looked like they were going to put the game to bed. And that's where we have to talk about United's performance. It wasn't vintage by any stretch, but the lads dug in. They stayed organized, frustrated Arsenal, and in the end, we probably should have nicked it. And that's exactly what the pundits were saying. Despite United's struggles this season, they still looked more dangerous late on, which says a lot. If you're enjoying this kind of raw, fan-focused reaction and honest analysis, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what we've got coming after every match, transfer update, and club drama. Merson made a big point too. If Arsenal are still trying to chase Liverpool, they've got another thing coming. He reckons it's already over for them and that Arteta's side should be looking over their shoulders, not up the table. From a United fan's point of view, it's quite satisfying watching the cracks appear in their title challenge, especially after all the noise. Following their win over City, Jamie Redknapp also hit the nail on the head. Arsenal didn't show the mentality of a title contender. He said they looked flat, lacked pace, and just didn't show up with that killer instinct. Meanwhile, United, despite being off the pace for much of the season, showed more fight, more grit, and looked like the team that actually wanted to win. It at the end, and let's not ignore Roy Keane's favorite word, mentality. He said Arsenal didn't come with any real belief they could get the job done. And if you're serious about winning titles, you've got to turn up to places like Old Trafford ready to tear it apart, but instead, they were too cautious, too soft. Arsenal had no swagger, and Keane knows all about that winning mentality. To sum it up, United may not be flying this season, but there are moments like this that show there's still something in the tank. We frustrated a top side and nearly stole it. Meanwhile, Arsenal, their title dreams are slipping and the pressure's back on Arteta. This result might not mean much in terms of silverware for United, but it's a moment that shows there's still fight left in this team.